In this episode of The Christian Philosopher, we'll talk about why you should devote yourself to the study of philosophy according to St. Thomas Aquinas. Welcome back, everyone. Scott Sullivan here from the Aquinas School of Theology and Philosophy. We're doing a series of videos on how to be wise, what is wisdom, and how to become a wise person according to the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas. This video is about why you should devote yourself to the study of philosophy. Philosophy, of course, is the love of wisdom, and I've had in the prior two videos, I've been talking about that. In this video, I want to talk about what might be your motivation, according to St. Thomas Aquinas. In his work, the Summa Contra Gentiles, Aquinas says that the study of philosophy, the study of wisdom, is the most perfect, the most sublime, the most profitable, and the most delightful. The most perfect, the most sublime, the most profitable, and the most delightful. What does this mean? The study of wisdom is the most perfect, since a man already shares in happiness insofar as he devotes himself to the pursuit of wisdom. This is what he says. We share in happiness to the degree in which we devote ourselves to the pursuit of wisdom. In other words, what I think he's saying here is that the distinctive characteristic of human beings, what makes us different from animals, one of the main things is our reason, our powers of intellect. And when we develop those powers of intellect, when we develop our reason through the study of philosophy, there's a sense in which we become more human. We become a perfected human, right? The opposite of that would be ignore reason and just live for the sense pleasures and stuff like animals do, right? You become more animal-like insofar as you reject your reason, because your reason is the distinctive characteristic we have as human beings, man defined as a rational animal. It's the rational part that makes us different from a snake or a frog, okay? And so the more you develop your rationality, there's a sense in which the more your humanness is perfected, you see? So developing our powers of reason is a kind of a perfection of man, as Aristotle says. And Aquinas thinks Scripture supports this. In the book of Sirach 14:20, it says, "Blessed is the man who meditates on wisdom." So devoting yourself to the study of wisdom, philosophy, the love of wisdom, and we could also put theology into this category as well, you become perfected as a human being. Secondly, the study of wisdom is the most sublime. The most sublime. Aquinas says, because by this study, when you study wisdom, man in a special way becomes a certain likeness to God. A certain likeness to God, who, as the Psalms say, made all things in wisdom. You see? So in philosophy, as I've been saying, we're studying God and the divine order, the highest things. And the more you learn about God's wisdom, right, the more you become kind of like him. You participate a little bit, right, in his wisdom. The more you learn about it. You take his wisdom, some of it, teeny beeny bit, right, and you put it in your mind when you learn it, okay? So you learn about when you learn about God's wisdom, you become wiser like God. Pretty cool. And since likeness is the cause of love, Thomas says, the pursuit of wisdom especially joins man to God in friendship. Buddies in wisdom. When you study the divine wisdom, there's a certain friendship you kind of engage in with God when you do that. Number 3. The study of wisdom, Thomas says, is the most profitable thing you can do. He doesn't mean profit in terms of money, right? In other words, when you study wisdom, it's more useful, more profitable, because through wisdom, Thomas says, we arrive at the kingdom of immortality. Through the pursuit of wisdom, we arrive at the kingdom of immortality. When you learn about God and the divine order, and then you structure your life accordingly, according to the divine plan, right? So that you can reach your true end, so that you can reach the true purpose and goal of your life, right? What's more important than that? And number 4, the study of wisdom, Thomas says, is the most delightful. The most delightful. It's more full of joy because, quoting the book of wisdom, Thomas says, her conversation has no bitterness, nor her company any tediousness, but joy and gladness. And what I think here Aquinas is talking about is the certain joy that's involved with the life of the mind. There's a certain intellectual joy that comes from the study of philosophy, the discovery of these higher truths, okay? The joy that comes from pursuing wisdom. It's a joy, it's a different kind of joy, right? It's not a joy that comes from sensation, but it's a joy that comes from the life of the mind. And if you aren't familiar with this, if you don't consider yourself an academic, you haven't really tasted that kind of joy, intellectual joy, then I suggest you give it a shot. It's addictive. And it's something you can always do. You know, you're laid up, you're injured, you can't get out of bed. You can do this. You know, you get older and you can't run anymore, you can't play tennis anymore, can't do the physical things you used to. You can read. You know, you can pursue philosophy in your older age and engage in that joy life of the mind. And all these other benefits that Thomas says. The study of wisdom is the most perfect. It makes you more human. The study of wisdom is the most sublime. You participate in God's wisdom. It's the most profitable because you learn about the order of the universe and you can structure your life accordingly. And it's the most delightful because it brings us intellectual joy. So that's a lot. I think those are good reasons why you might want to consider pursuing the study of wisdom in your life. Let me talk about 2 difficulties that Aquinas talks about in this. I mentioned in a prior video that the duty of a Christian philosopher, right, who wants to pursue divine truth and therefore refute contrary errors. That's the twofold duty of the Christian philosopher. It'll be difficult for 2 reasons to do this. Which, by the way, this means the pursuit of wisdom is not easy. No one's ever saying that. It's hard. That's why most people are not wise. Most people just flick on Netflix or play video games on their phone, right? They're not wise. They're immersed in the lower things, right? They're wise about how to win a game on their phone. But anyway, Aquinas says this task of pursuing this twofold duty of the philosopher, pursuing truth, divine truth, and refuting contrary errors, it's difficult for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's difficult to know all the individual objections of unbelievers. I mean, there are so many errors to refute. You get on Twitter or the internet, there's just so many errors about God and the divine order. You can't possibly know all of them, right? It varies person to person. There are so many errors, Aquinas said, it's impossible to know them well enough to even begin to refute them all. So that's your first difficulty as a Christian philosopher. And then the second one is, of course, many people don't accept the authority of Scripture. Okay? Many people, like pagans, don't accept the Bible, right? Muslims don't accept the Bible. They don't accept, a lot of people, atheists, agnostics, they don't accept the authority of the Bible at all. Jewish people accept the Old Testament, and heretics accept the New Testament, but they have a distorted view of it. So you're not really able to use Scripture-based arguments in many cases. So for this reason, Thomas says, if you're dealing with unbelievers and pagans, which a lot of people are in our society today, the Christian philosopher shouldn't be throwing Bible verses at them because they don't care. They don't accept that as an authority. Well, it says in the Gospel of John, they're going to say big whoopee-doo. No, Aquinas says don't do that, right? They don't accept that authority. But the Christian philosophy says must use natural reason in these cases, logic, reason, human reason, to which all people are compelled to accept, or at least should. Okay, they should assent to reason. Okay, so that's the second problem in trying to fulfill this duty of a Christian philosopher of pursuing truth and refuting errors. Number one, there are so many errors, it's hard to even know them all. And number two, you can't use Scripture. You have to use reason when it comes to the things of God, which we can do. But nevertheless, Aquinas is going to say that using our reason is difficult in this life when we're discussing the things of God. And I'll talk more about that later. Learning about God through our reason has its own inherent problems associated with it that we'll discuss later. Okay, so that's why you should pursue philosophy as a Christian. That's why it's going to be kind of hard to do so. But it's still, I insist, and Aquinas will insist, and anybody with any sense will insist, it's a noble thing to do. It's a noble task for any Christian to pursue and learn divine truth and then refute the errors that are opposed to it. Yeah? All right. So it's a noble task, but of course there's another problem that we might want to mention that maybe you're wondering about. It's lack of training. Where in the world do I learn how to do this? Right? Many Christians are not educated in this area, and it can be hard to find good, reliable sources to learn how to do these things. And so if you're interested in this, how you might start doing this is follow this channel. This is what I like to do. I like to produce videos on the wisdom of St. Thomas Aquinas, philosophical wisdom, theological wisdom, and I try to teach these things in an easy to understand, plain English, average Joe, blue collar language, right? So that you can understand it too. This is what I do. This is my purpose in life. Is I take the wisdom of Aquinas and I try to make it easy to understand so that you can watch it at home on your phone, on YouTube or whatever. All right, that's the purpose of the channel. So if you're interested in these things and you want to learn how to do this, here's what you can do. If you want to have me here to help you. Number one, subscribe to this channel. Right? I produce videos on this all the time. Subscribe wherever the subscribe button is here. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll get the notification when I release new ones. Number two, you can visit my website, drop in your email. I send out emails on this stuff as well, so that's another way. And those, of course, are all free. And then if you want some of my premium stuff, I have the Aquinas School of Theology and Philosophy that you can enroll in. You can find that on my website, scottmsullivan.com, and get started there. But hopefully you'll consider this, right? Hopefully these things will give you, hopefully what I've said here will give you some inspiration and some motivation on why you should devote yourself to the study of philosophy.